morning. Welcome. I am delighted and overwhelmed and pleased at the number of people who have signed up for this. I hope that as we go, good things happen for you. So welcome to 10 Mistakes People Make when moving to topic-based authoring. This is exciting and cool and hip. And I have a poll. I'd love to have you guys go ahead and answer, just so that I get a sense of who my audience is. So hopefully you guys can see the poll on the screen, I'm hoping. Can you guys see the poll on the screen? I'm hoping you can. Yes, excellent. You guys are answering it. So the fact that you're answering it is good. I'm curious, are you already doing content in a topic-based way, thinking about it? Until recently you've never heard of it, which is a perfectly valid thing to say. It could be you're here, and that's what you're hoping, is to figure it out. Somebody said topic-based authoring is a good thing and you should learn more about it, and you went, well, hey, are you here because my voice is like a lullaby, and that's why you're here? And there'll be a couple of people who, in a snarky, fun way, say yes, that's why they're here. But I'm curious. I'm just curious. That helps me understand a little bit more about you all. And there it is. I'm also aware that my poll only lets you choose one. And I appreciate those of you who are letting me know in the questions area that you're, trying to select more than one and it's not letting. It's a limit of the poll in GoToWebinar. You can only select one. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close the poll, and I'm going to count down. 86%, 88% of you have voted. If you've been thinking you'd like to vote, but you haven't yet, I'm just letting you know that I'm going to, in a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, okay, I'm closing it kind of way. Closing. Okay, so I should be sharing, oh, wait, let me share the results with you guys. So you guys should be able to see the results. 49% of you and 91% of you voted, by the way, so I think this is a pretty good representation. 49% of you are currently developing content in a topic-based way. 46% of you are thinking about it. 3% have never heard of it until recently. And 3% of you think that my voice is like a lullaby, and that's why you're here. And I think that's lovely. I appreciate that. That's really, really good. Because, my voice is like a lullaby. And if you're interested in why I use that someday over drinks at a conference, ask me and I'll tell you the real story behind that comment. I will not do that for a recorded webinar. So, all right. So we should be back to my slides. Can you guys all see my slides? Making sure that we can. You should be able to see it. Let me go ahead and introduce myself in case you're wondering what it is we're doing here. I just thought I would do the poll first, do things out of order. All right. In case you don't know who I am, you guys, my name is Sharon Burk. There's a picture of me. I look generally like that, although I think this week my hair color is different, simply because I like to do that. I've been in the tech comm industry for actually 20 years, which is fun because I never started out with this as my career. But here I am. And I'm a content consultant. I'm the person that you call when you think that there are some things that you need to solve, some issues, challenges, etc., and you don't know how to get started, or you don't have the bandwidth, or, as is often the case, your management isn't going to believe you if you tell them these are the problems. But if you bring somebody in and pay them a lot of money to tell them these are the problems, your management will believe you. And I'm more than happy to do that. I wish that wasn't the case, but very often that is in fact the case. I also teach. I co-teach with Bonnie Graham. I teach engineering students how to communicate at the University of California, Riverside. So should you be working with an engineer sometime now or in the future who seems to understand the value of communicating and how to do it fairly effectively, feel free to send me a thank you note. I'll send it off to Bonnie as well. I also teach several other places. I knit, I design patterns, I work out. I also write other things. I garden. I have an Australian Shepherd, and just generally I'm all around fun. So that's kind of to give you a sense of who I am. We have today in the supporting role Bonnie Graham. I mentioned her a moment ago. She's supporting us. So if you are asking questions, perhaps you're having problems with your audio, et cetera, Bonnie is going to be answering those questions, trying to help you out while I'm talking, because I can either help you out or I can do the presentation, but I can't do both. We'll be doing a live Q&A at the end. So if you have questions for me, feel free to type them in the window, because that's where I'm going to be looking for the live Q&A stuff. I'm recording this webinar, so if I say something that is of value to you and you'd like to share it with your coworkers, I am recording this. The slides are also available right now on SlideShare. So if you go to SlideShare and search on my name, you should be able to find them. That'll be cool. Tomorrow you'll be getting a link to the recording, so that's good. Always good stuff there. And then while we're here, let's say thank you to ProSpring Technical Staffing. They sponsor these webinars, which means they give me a little bit of money to cover some of the costs of doing this, because it does cost me to do this. It's free for you, but it costs me something. And ProSpring Staffing is, of course, where you're going to want to go for any technical staffing needs that you might have, both for TechCom and for programming or anything like that. And ProSpring also does the LavaCon conference. And the LavaCon conference is always worth going to. There's one in April in New Orleans this year, and then there'll be one this fall again in Portland, I believe, is where they're doing it. And I will be probably at the one in Portland. Can't make the one in New Orleans this year, but I'll definitely be at the one in Portland. So there we go. All right, so what is topic-based authoring? Because we have 3% who until recently never heard of developing content in a topic-based sort of way. Well, here's a bunch of content, bunch of text on the slide. This is from Wikipedia. So you can always, on Wikipedia go and find out what topic-based authoring is. Fundamentally, it's a modular content creation approach. Now, that's a lot of text there, right? I'm going to give you still a lot of content, but some fewer words. Topic-based authoring is a way of focusing your content development effort on just the information that your user needs to use the product, which sounds a lot like what you've been doing, right? Well, what it does is it's kind of like structuring an online help system. If you've spent any of your career doing online help systems where you're creating, just the information that shows up in one screen for help, it's a lot like that. But topic-based authoring takes this a bit further, because it's also very focused on not only developing content in small pieces, but developing content in small pieces that you can reuse in multiple places. So there is that. Now, some people also are moving on to DITA. They know that the Darwin information typing architecture is where they're going, but a lot of us don't need to go there. Since we don't need to go there, that's cool, because we need to go there. Topic-based authoring is a perfectly valid place to stop your content development efforts. If you are going into DITA, it's part of the trip, but you don't have to move to DITA to make use of this information development method. And there is a lot of value to be gained moving just to topic-based authoring. So the big point of view here is, the big point here is, it can be a destination. Topic-based authoring can be the destination. It can also be the rest stop on your way to DITA, but you don't have to go to DITA to get the benefit of it. Topics are small. Perhaps a half a printed page, maybe smaller. Probably no more than 4 printed pages for topics, but very often they're going to be smaller. So very small, really. And then you just kind of put them all together. You're only going to include the information in a topic, for a topic, needed to perform one procedure or understand one concept. So I want you to think of them as small. And then using your tool, whatever the tool is, you combine and recombine those topics into bigger chunks of information. Now, you can do this in frame. You can do this in unstructured frame. You can even do this, believe it or not, in Word. It's not pretty and you won't like it, and it'll probably make you cry, but you can do it in Word. So there is that. There are obviously products out there that have been designed for doing this, so there's a bunch of ways to do this. In my experience, topics are easier to update, and by easier to update, I mean it's easier to get approval from management to update a topic and push the entire deliverable out than it is to say we're going to make a small change to Chapter 5. Because when you say you're going to make a small change to Chapter 5, very often management sets their hair on fire and says, oh my God, we're going to have to review Chapter 5. Ah! No. We're going to add one paragraph to Chapter 5. So really, we don't have to review all of Chapter 5 again. We just need to review the small part. Oh my God, we've got, let's see, when you're in a topic-based environment, you can say, we're going to make a small change to topic banana. We're going to add a paragraph to the topic banana. And that needs to be reviewed again. And everybody goes, oh, well, that's, like a 20-minute thing. I'll review that on the train on the way home. So it's much easier to get permission. Even though you're just doing the same thing, it's much easier to get permission. Now, I've got a question up, and I can see it, and I'm going to answer it because right here, it's very relevant. So the question is, can you have a subtopic within a topic? Oh, absolutely. Depending on how you wish to architect this and how deep and in-depth you wish to go, you can have subtopics within subtopics within subtopics. Now, some tools lend to that, make that much easier than others, which is a whole different webinar. We're not going to go any further than that. But, yeah. All right, so for those of you who are visually oriented, I have a picture here. Here is a library, and I'm using library here as a generic, because generic library project, I don't know what. And you've got all these topics, adding users, using container objects, about reports. You've got all of these topics, right? But notice that there's no relationship between them. They're just a bunch of topics. They don't have a relationship until we develop a relationship. So we go, some of these topics belong in an admin guide. Some of them belong in a programmer's guide. Some of them belong in a getting started guide. And I'm using guide here as a delivery neutral word. So you may be delivering this admin guide as an online help. You may be delivering this programmer's guide as embedded help. You may be delivering this getting started guide as a printed thing. The delivery mechanism is irrelevant to us right now. So I just want you to understand, by guide here, I want you to think of it as delivery neutral. There is no delivery specific kind of thing here. It's just you decide you're going to do that. All right, so what are the mistakes? How can you mess this up? Now, there's a lot more than 10. A lot more than 10. But these are the 10 that I find to be the most common. And these are not in order of importance or in order of, I see this one most often to I see this one least often. These are just the 10 that occurred to me that people make. Not getting buy-in. Not getting your management buy-in. Management and other teams, your project managers, your product managers, your development team, the QA team, all of these other groups and your management need to understand why topic-based authoring is better. And the burden is on you to show that. We can't just assume that they will understand, well, we'd like to change the way that we are authoring and creating our content, and it will be better. Trust me, it will be better. Because nobody understands how doc happens to start with. So this is not, by the way, in case you're wondering, going to be an instant and dramatic improvement. It's not going to be. You're not going to instantly see cost reductions or et cetera unless you're doing localization. If you're localizing, translating your content into other languages, you may absolutely see a dramatic cost drop, a dramatic financial advantage to doing this. And it may be immediate and dramatic. But schedules could be impacted, because you're changing how content is going to be created. This could impact schedules, and that means project managers care. And it's very likely that you're going to be developing less content. And for groups like QA, I have found, the idea of less content can be really scary. Support is less scared by less content, which is weird. But QA is often just freaked out. Less content? Well, that must mean something bad is going to happen. I don't know why QA is freaked out about that, but they are in general. So you have to put together some sort of business case and hold people's hands and whisper into their ear and reassure them that while things are going to change, this doesn't mean the end of the world. It doesn't mean something bad is going to happen. It means that it's going to be different. That's it. It means it's going to be different. And you may want to build a business case to show management that financially this is the better way to go and where the return on investment is going to happen. That is its own, a whole different webinar, which maybe we could talk Bonnie into doing one day, because she does a great webinar on building a business case. Feel free to nag her in the comments. She just went, thank you, Sharon, very much. All right, another problem I see people do, clients do, is they use the same tools. The tool that got you into the problem you're in may not be the tool that gets you out of this problem. So if you are thinking you would get some advantage to moving to topic-based authoring, you also need to think about the tool that you're currently using and think about what tools might meet the needs if you do move. And the way to find out the right tool for you is not to post a question to Tech Whirler saying, what tool are you guys using? Because I want to use that. I do an entirely different webinar on choosing new tools and how to think about that and what to consider, etc. That is also available on YouTube and it's available on SlideShare. So that's all available to you. But fundamentally, you need to evaluate what your needs are now and what your needs are in the foreseeable future, a year, 3 years out. And you need to decide what the problems are that you need to solve and what the best solutions are for you. Notice I'm not talking about what the best tool is. And then once you've identified what your problems are and what the solution would look like for you, then you're ready to start auditioning tools. And you'll be working with vendors. Work with the vendors closely. I've worked for 2 vendors now, and I can tell you that mostly the vendors are very willing to work with you. They want you to pick the right tool. And most of the vendors are pretty good about saying this isn't the right tool for you. Most of them. There's a couple, and no, I'm not naming names. There's a couple that aren't so good about that. Mostly they are, and the reason they're good about that is they don't want you to select their tool and then have the whole thing be a crashing disaster, because you're going to tell people that it's a crashing disaster. And it's not a crashing disaster because the tool didn't work. It's a crashing disaster because you selected the wrong tool. And that's a tough one. You know, you're out there saying, oh my gosh, I chose product X and it's a disaster, when in fact product X was the wrong solution to your problem. And if the vendor of product X keeps saying that, it sounds like they're being weaselly. So by and large, the vendors are going to work with you. So if you are thinking, I need to move to topic-based authoring because I see advantages, and those advantages are real for us, it's probably time to look at the products that you're using as well. It may be that you can do it with the tool you're using, but it's probably time to look at the tool just to make sure. All right, related to but separate, using the same processes that you have been using before you move to topic-based authoring are probably the wrong processes. I'm going to take a drink of water. Hang on. Because the processes for developing, editing, and publishing a 200-page printed manual are probably not going to work for developing topic-based content, because the entire process is different. Not the least of which, topics stand alone. So you don't have to wait to get the entire user guide written before you send it out for review. You don't even have to wait until all of Chapter 5 is written. Once you're done with a topic, you can send it out for review. And if you're doing topic-based authoring, you know, on steroids, topics are formatted differently depending on where they're being delivered. So content and formatting are often separated. So what's being reviewed is literally the content, because how it looks is going to be completely dependent on where it's getting published. And the content can be published in multiple places. By multiple places, I mean different devices, online, printed user guide, embedded help, and mobile devices. The exact same content each place, but it's formatted appropriately for each deliverable. So people aren't reviewing how the formatting looks anymore. They're just reviewing the content. Now, is that going to stop people from saying, well, I think this should be bold, et cetera? No, of course not, because people are people. But it's a different process. It is a very different process because you're reviewing these topics as they're ready. And by the way, I have found that reviewing topics, for some reason, your reviews get done. I don't know why. I can't explain it. I think it's psychological. I think sending people 10 topics to review, even though it's the same quantity of information that they were reviewing in Chapter 5 when you sent it to them as Chapter 5, because you're sending them 10 topics, they go, oh, well, I'll just do these while I'm eating my lunch, no problem. And they do their reviews. Now, I'm not saying that everybody, that angels are going to sing and it's all going to be, kittens and puppies, but overall, your reviews are starting to get done, which is fantastic. That said, it is possible, again, depending on the processes that will work in your environment, that you might want to think about using a special tool for reviews. For example, Madcap Flare has Contributor, which can be used for reviews. AuthorIt has a process for reviews. It has a tool specially for reviews. Adobe has the whole PDF review workflow thing. So the vendors are getting that reviews are difficult, and they're trying to figure out ways to make it better. So you may want to look into that as a way to do it, because nothing says fun, I think, like piles of printed paper, right? And that's just simply not going to work. This number 4 is one I see a lot of, and it breaks my heart. Not training people. Not training people sets up both the projects and your people for failure. You cannot expect people to magically know. And this one breaks my heart. I see this happen so often that everybody just assumes, or somebody assumes, that everyone will just, I don't know, through osmosis, know what it is they're supposed to be doing, know the new process, know the new tools, will know all of this new stuff, and it'll all just be magic, and it will all work out well, and angels will sing, and everybody will get cupcakes in the morning, and it'll all be good. So they don't train anybody, or they train, in a very haphazard sort of way. And so what happens is people feel stupid. They don't feel like they understand what's going on. They don't know. And so, of course, they get frustrated and upset. And then, maybe they start subverting the process because they're just frustrated and they like the old process. At least they knew the old process. They may not have liked it, but they knew it. So they start subverting the new process, which, means it doesn't work. And everybody goes, oh, my God, this new process, it doesn't work. This whole thing was a disaster. I knew it would be, which is stupid. Well, it's just, I'm on my 3rd marriage. I'm here to tell you, if you don't tell people what the expectations are and give them the tools and the training to meet those expectations, you cannot be surprised when they do not meet those expectations. And if you'd like to set people up for failure, change the tools, change the process, and don't train anybody on them. That's just fantastic, right? And by everybody, I don't mean just the writers. If you're changing the review process, for example, it would be good to train the people who are doing the reviews so they understand the new process. Because it's unfair to expect them to know what the new process is if you don't train them. And by training them, I don't mean sending them out an email saying, we're changing it, here's the new tool, let me know if you have any questions. That's not training. It's just not. Yeah. So think also about writing up best practices for your workflow. Make that, maybe there's a wiki. Maybe you have a corporate wiki. Maybe you have a corporate SharePoint site for these groups, and you can post things there. One of the things that I like to do that I think really encourages people is I will, like if I'm working with a client, I've done the training, I will identify the person at the client site who seems to really like this stuff, and I will suggest that they write up the cool stuff they discover as they go. Like job aids, they write it up and they post it on the SharePoint site. And everybody can check that. This is also a great way to win over somebody who's really uncertain about making this whole move. They're deeply suspicious of the whole thing. You can assign them the job, in a positive way, not in a punitive way, but in a positive way. Assign them the job of writing up the cool stuff they've discovered, so that others can benefit from their knowledge. And I phrase it that way. Sometimes, I'm not the world's best person at politics, but when that works, it works genius. Just saying. Okay, this one's actually all of these are my favorites. This one's good. Not planning the move. You cannot jump on your horse and ride off in all directions. You can't do it. You've got to plan what you're doing now. That said, I am a big believer in planned and managed projects, like I am. So you've got to analyze what you've got before you decide what you've got. You are going to be surprised when you do the analysis at what it is you've got. You really will. And I'm here to tell you, your legacy content is not going to fit neatly. It is not. Your legacy content is probably not well written. It's probably not well structured, or it's probably not well organized. It is probably a mess. Not because you've been bad with the legacy content, but you being your company, has probably brought in contractors. There's probably been serious deadlines. When there are serious, we're not kidding, deadlines, typically what happens is you bring in a contractor and you work them stuff, because it's more fun to kill strangers than it is to kill a family. But that means, and you usually know it when you're doing it, that means that you're not going to be getting the quality standards that you were hoping for. And that's the trade-off you make. But that means that this is not so good. So if you pick one manual or one help to get a picture of what it is that you've got, you could be shocked. Or you could pick the manual that you wrote. Well, guess what? The manual you wrote is fantastic because you wrote it. So if you just do the analysis off the manual that you just finished, you're going to go, oh my God, our content is fantastic. It's well organized, it's well structured, and let me tell you about the writing. Oh my God, it's fabulous. Right? Well, that's not actually a fair, thing, right? So yeah. And by not planning, you can make it very, very difficult for the staff, because the staff, by staff I mean everybody, and that could also include up to the reviewers. People need to know what the expectation is for how this is going to go. And I'm also here to tell you that, especially in a department with multiple writers, there is almost always one writer who thinks that this topic-based authoring is a great idea. They see exactly why it is that the department should move to it. It is the right decision to make, but just not for their content. Their content is special. It's not like other content. It's frankly, you have to brush its hair and feed it special ice cream, because it's not like the other content, and it's not going to work. So they'll have to keep doing what they're doing, but they can't wait to see everybody else. And here's the truth, guys. Your content isn't special. I know several of you are going, what? But it's true. Your content isn't special. I have had my hands on more content than I want to think about over the last 20 years, and I am here to tell you, your content is not special. Your content is, by and large, just like everybody else's content. content. And if you think your content is special, you're wrong. Now, several of you are leaving the webinar now because you're horrified that I would say that, but that's true. That's true. It just is. So it just is. It's not special. Now, I will give you 100%. If you are being regulated by the FDA, you have very different content than if the content that I'm writing for consumer products. But the FDA, it's not special in the world of FDA. Everybody's got to do the FDA stuff that's working in the FDA. So not special. All right, this is one that's sneaky but true, and you should start thinking about this before you start thinking about moving to topic-based authoring, and that is not using writing guidelines, just letting people write the way they've been writing. You've got to have good writing standards in place because the nature of topic-based authoring means that the content that I'm writing, the content that Monica is writing, and the content that Bonnie is writing could all be combined together into one larger topic. And our audience is going to read all of the pieces together. And that means we've got to have the same voice. We've got to be using, we've got to all be writing present tense. We've all got to be calling stuff the same thing because our audience shouldn't know. It shouldn't be obvious to our audience that they're reading 3 different writers' content mushed together into one topic. So you've got to have good writing standards. And by good writing standards, I mean whatever is relevant for your environment. I have a webinar that's recorded, and you'll find the slides on SlideShare, about some good writing standards that are the basics. But I also mean things like the corporate style guide. And by corporate style guide, I mean how do you talk about your products? Do you say, and I have worked in the corporate guides, things that you talked about, the banana software, and you used the definite article and the word software. I've worked in environments where you absolutely did not do that. You just talked about banana. That was it. So you've got to all talk about it, the corporate style guides. Then there's the, do you tap, do you click, do you touch, do you press, those kinds of things. All of this has to be consistent because all of this content is going to be appearing together. You can't have people just writing in their style. Well, my style is better. I'm a better writer than Monica, so my style should prevail. Well, that may be true. I may be a better writer than Monica, although I doubt it. I'm sure that. And by the way, I don't know Monica. I just see her name there, so I'm chosen Monica. It's that or pick on Mark Clifford, who I do know. But the truth is, I may be a better writer than Monica. She may be a better writer than me, but this isn't about who's the better writer. This is about getting everybody writing together. And you got to do that. And the nature of topic-based authoring is we have to be flexible in our writing voice and writing styles to meet standards, much more so than previous. And I got to tell you, the writers who don't want to get with the program are not going to be employed. I mean, that's fundamentally, that's where it's going to go. Everybody is moving to topic-based authoring because it is the smartest thing to do, whether they're moving all the way on to DITA or just staying in topic-based authoring. And the writers who can't make this adjustment are going to find themselves out of work, and you're going to find yourself out of work in the next 5 years. And that's just all there is to it. All right, number 7 is fun. Slicing content according to headings. Now, this is a little techno-geeky, so if you haven't made this move yet, this may not make sense to you. But most of the tools for topic-based authoring, when you import your existing content into them, will let you slice up your content based on headings. And it's a reasonable way to slice up content. No, I'm not going to go into why and all of that, but it's a reasonable way to do it. However, once you've got the content imported in, sliced up based on headings, it is very tempting to feel like you're done. Because after all, you sliced it all up. Look, it's sliced up. It's in the new tool. It's sliced up, and life is good. Well, that's step 1. And step 1 is good. Step 1 is good. But it's only step 1 of X, and X is bigger than 2. So it's not slice it, get it into the new tool, sliced up, then publish. There's a lot more. Now, you don't have to do it all at once, but there is more. you need to be thinking about content reuse. You need to be thinking about smaller topics, because there are going to, you probably are looking at giant topics, especially if this content has never been turned into online help. You may be looking at topics that go on for 7, 8, 10 pages, and you may be realizing, wow, this is a mess. Not so good. You're going to want to start thinking about embedded topics or snippets, depending on the tool you're using. It's called both. And by snippets, we totally mean things, pieces of smaller content. So you want to be looking at that. If you're localizing now, or if you're going to be localizing, you want to be looking at that. And then start looking at outputs. Are you going to be, we're going to be publishing to online help. We're going to be publishing to PDFs. Maybe we're going to be also publishing to printed stuff. Are we going to be publishing to ebooks? If so, which ones? Et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the good news is you do not have to have this all decided in the first 15 minutes. A lot of this you can do as you go. You can come up with a plan and decide the order in which you're going to be focusing on these things. But it's something to be thinking about. So just because you slice the content according to headings does not mean that you're done. Number 8, one of my favorites, because these are all my favorites. It's like, they're like children. They're all my favorites. Not reusing content. And there are, I think, 2 things I want you to think about here. But let's start with writing content is expensive. And that's something that I think we're all starting to realize. Writing content is not cheap. Even if you hire, even if you go out to a third world, a lower, I think by third world I mean third world. If you go out to a low-cost market where people are getting paid pennies to write content, most of us have realized that that's not actually the total cost for that content. Because if you choose to go somewhere where, it's the absolute cheapest you can pay to have words strung together, that's typically because the words are not in native English, and it's got to all be, and it's, you're getting what you're paying for. And you're getting what you pay for. So even if you go to very low-cost markets to have your content created, you have to bring it back into our market and have it reworked. So writing content is expensive however you go about it. Rewriting existing content is very expensive because you've already paid to have that content created once. Now you're paying to create it again. And then localizing similar but different content is the most expensive of all. And this is where topic-based authoring really starts to make a difference if you're doing this properly. So you can't reuse what you can't find, which is why the tools that got you into this mess may not be the tools to get you out. Because if you're using Word, you're stuck with opportunistic reuse, which is one of the writers starts writing something and goes, hey, wait a minute, I think I've written this before. I'll stop what I'm doing and go find it. And we all know that we can all find everything we're looking for immediately, right? None of us have ever spent an hour and a half, 2 hours out there, wherever there is for our company, trying to find that, whatever that is, right? We all find things immediately. So it's potentially a giant time sink, this opportunistic reuse. And I'm not saying anybody's bad, depending on the tools you're using or the tools that your company was willing to go for, opportunistic reuse may be as good as it gets. But if you are getting your company to buy tools that are more appropriate to topic-based authoring, opportunistic reuse is one of the things that you can put in your business case. Yes, it may cost more to get a product to buy a tool that does systemic reuse or systematic reuse, but think of all the time you guys will all save. Systematic reuse is where the system knows that content that you are typing has been written previously and prompts you for reuse. And there are several products out there that do that, more than a few actually. These are the kinds of we want this, because this is where it's expensive to write it once, but now we can reuse it very easily. Very easily. And the high-end tools track the reuse and report it, which is the best, because then you can start to really see the return on investment. You know, we've written this content once. Here are all the places that we are using it, and it cost us X to create it once, and notice we are not paying X to create it in all these other places. So it's fantastic. Fantastic. All right, number 9. This is heresy in some groups, but I'm going to upset several of you because I can. And that's not considering your audience. I have some news for you. Your users are not stupid. They know how to use Windows. Everybody knows how to use Windows at this point. Very, very few of us are working for an audience who have never used a mouse or a keyboard and a computer. Very few of us. Most people, when they pick up a smartphone or a tablet, very quickly, and by very quickly I mean within moments, understand how to touch, tap, etc. So your users aren't stupid. They also know their job. So if we are writing documentation, if we are supporting business stuff, they know their job. And most people very quickly figure out their leisure stuff, very quickly. So the basics of how to use the products that we are documenting, most people figure it out right away. Most people go from, gee, I don't know what this is, to intermediate very quickly. So if you think that you are adding value for your company by writing only for your beginning users are about 15% of the total audience. Our audience is typically a normal distribution or a normal curve or a bell curve. It's called all of those things, and that's the graphic on the screen right there. And most of our users fall into those dark blue bars, the 34.1%, 34.1%. Most of our users, about 69% of our users, are in the intermediate level, which means about 15% are beginners and about 15% are experts. So if we focus our effort on our intermediate users, we are supporting almost 70% of our users right out of the box. We need to do that. We also, as an added bonus, if we can identify our audience and their schemas, i.e. the things that we know they know, and then put our examples in the middle of their schemas, we're a win. Identify their domains of knowledge. For example, more than a few years ago now, I was working for a train crossing equipment manufacturer. They made the equipment that made sure the arms go down on railroad crossings, which sounds very simple. You would be shocked at how complicated that is. And we did a survey, found out about our users, found out that the guys who maintained those crossings came from blue-collar construction or mechanic backgrounds, which was super exciting because that meant any examples we gave them, if we took our examples out of those backgrounds, we knew that these guys would get it. How cool was that, right? This is one of those moments where it's just like I was so, 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 so happy. So happy. So our users aren't stupid. Most of our users are intermediate. If you think that well, I'll just document for the naive user who doesn't know anything about computers or this product or anything, because that's what I mean when I say I'm advocating for our users. You're not advocating for your users. You're actually doing stupid things, and you should stop it. Your users are smarter than that, and they're counting on us to give them information to support them. They need that information. Okay, number 10. Thinking that moving to topic-based authoring is trivial and it won't take any time is a big mistake. Now, I'm not saying this is the hardest thing you'll ever do. I'm not. Okay? I'm not saying that. But I'm also not saying let's just hire an intern and let them do it. It won't take any time at all. That's not the case. Something in the middle. Your legacy content, I said this before, but it really bears repeating. I cannot repeat this enough. Your legacy content is probably a mess. And you probably need your legacy content. Very few of us can draw a line in the sand and say, from this point forward, we shall only go with brand new content in the new tool. And we will never look at the legacy content again. We won't even mention this. It will be our secret. It will be the thing that we don't talk about. Most of us can't do that. We have to have that legacy content. We need to move it into the new tool. We need to massage it so that it is better and consistent so we can leverage it moving forward. So this is not going to take 20 minutes. We cannot just run down to the topic-based authoring store, get a bucket of topic-based authoring, okay, a gallon bucket because it's got a lot of legacy content, and then come back and pour it all over the desk and go, good, then we're done. We can't. This is why that planning comes in, and this is why that strategy comes in. Because while this is, again, not the most difficult thing we've ever done, this is also not going to be something we can just do over a weekend. You know, with an intern or two, you can get an intern or two to help. There are things interns can be very useful in. But this isn't super, super easy. And we all know we've got to still meet our deadlines. So if we're restructuring all of our content, we've got to remember that we still have to meet all of our deadlines. Very few of us are in a position to say to everybody in the company, we're going to shut the entire department down for the next 6 months. We're not going to create any documents. We're not going to support you in any way. We're going to shut it all down for 6 months. While we do this, we're going to do a conversion. So we'll see you in 6 months. Let us know how things are going. Hopefully several of you are laughing at that because I can't imagine. I've never met a department that could do that. I can't even imagine a department that could do that. So it's just not going to happen. So, and again, this is where that planning comes in. This is where the planning comes in. I've had clients who have called me with thousands of pages of legacy content who wanted help moving to a new tool, getting, helping them select a new tool, moving to the new tool, getting everybody trained, creating the templates, etc., and converting the legacy content, and they budgeted 6 weeks to do that. And I just laugh and laugh and laugh, laugh and laugh and laugh. It's so funny when they say that. No, I say, we can't do all that in 6 months. We can do a piece of that in 6 months, or in 6 weeks. We can do a piece of it in 6 weeks, and we can plan the next 6 months for doing the rest, but we cannot do all of it in the next 6 weeks. That's silly. Okay, and then here's your bonus. I said 10, but I'm going to give you the bonus, number 11, which is we don't need to worry about localization. And that is no. Even if you're not localizing, and localizing is translating into other languages, even if you're not localizing, you need to be acting like you're going to. Because if you act like you're going to localize and you never do, nothing bad will ever happen. But if you don't act like you're going to localize, I guarantee you somebody's going to wander into your office and go, yeah, we're really going to move into the Spanish-speaking market. We really see a big market opportunity there, and we thought we'd start selling there in a month. Is that going to be a problem? And then you're going to start looking at your content and going, oh my God, we have a problem. If you are localizing now, you know how complicated it can be. You know how important it is to talk about everything the same, et cetera, et cetera. And you also know somebody's going to wander into your office and go, I know that we're, localizing to 5 languages, but we thought we'd add Chinese because it's a really big market. That's not going to be a problem, right? I mean, we're localizing in 4 other languages right now, so adding one isn't going to be an issue, right? If you're involved in localizing, if you are doing translating of your documents into other stuff, you know that, yeah, this could be a problem. Because it could be a problem. You've got to have your content all written similarly. By similarly, I mean, remember those writing guidelines? Oh God, is that going to pay off? Content reuse, if some of you are writing on the file menu, click print, and some of you are saying from the file menu, click print on the file menu, select print, tap print, et cetera, et cetera. All of those are different as far as the localizers are concerned, and you're going to pay to have every one of those translated. But if you all centered around and only said on the file menu, click print, then you only have to have that, you pay for that to be translated one time, and it gets automatically placed everywhere. Making sure that you're not using examples that are based around color. because you're not. Yellow, for example, perfectly lovely color, right? We all like yellow. I mean, yellow is a happy, sunshiny color. So all of your examples are all based around color, except that in the Arabic cultures, yellow is considered a bad color. So you've got to now, that's all got to be changed. Not taking these sorts of things into account. It just, yeah. So, yeah, that matters. That matters a lot. Okay, I want to make sure we've got time for questions. So, more information, good reading resources. The first one is old. It's about 10 years old now, but it's still got fantastic information in it. Really, really good. And by the way, these slides, if you're thinking, oh gosh, I want to get this information, I've got to write it down really fast, I'd like to point out to you that print alt screen is also a great way to capture this information. So the first one, Kurt Ament's book, fabulous, old, but it's fabulous. And then these two books, these are brand new. They've just come out in the last year. These are also really, really good books. They don't necessarily talk specifically about topic-based authoring, but they will help you understand the benefits that you're going to get by going there. And the second one especially is going to help you put together the business case for your boss. They're both fantastic. And, you know, there's also Scott Abel. Scott Abel does a ton around content reuse, around topic-based authoring, etc. So there's that kind of stuff. Now, these are also good books, too, although they don't really have anything to do with topic-based authoring. But you see, I either wrote one of them or I'm in them. So I think these are really good. You should run right out and get these. Again, alt print screen. And, all right, so questions, comments, concerns. Bonnie, go ahead and unmute yourself. Yes, go ahead.
I actually just did. We have a couple of questions coming in from earlier. I'm going to start with the earliest one from Heather Janice. Sharon, you said there were more mistakes. Would you be able to add some of those into the email when you send off the webinar?
Oh, I would like to say yes, but no, I haven't time. Unfortunately, I am more than a bit jammed. So I'd like to say yes, but no, I don't have time right now. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Another question from Mark Clifford. In large organizations where content is created in separate departments independent of each other and using different tools, are you able to bring them all into the same solution set, especially as one of the end goals is reducing translation costs?
The answer to that is yes. And as to how to do that, that's an entirely different webinar. But yes, there are tools out there that will absolutely let that happen, and that needs to happen because we're all doing the same thing. We're all creating content, and we've got to do this. We've got to do this because it's too expensive to not do this.
Question from Kelly Bennett. So when using an authoring tool like Flare, is there a special way to analyze the info for topic-based chunks?
Ooh, that's a good question. I love Analyzer. NADCAP makes a tool called Analyzer, and I really like Analyzer because it will find stuff, it will find things, there's a feature in Analyzer that finds things that are identical, and there is another feature that finds things that are very similar. And that's, for me, a great place to start. When I'm doing the conversion projects for clients, I will use Analyzer to start doing that. You can get very, very far that way. Very, very far. I really like it. Okay.
From Christy Palmer, do you advocate minimalist writing style in support of topic-based content for reuse?
Yes. Minimalism is how we write. That's user-focused. Topic-based authoring is the next step in minimalism. Minimalism is writing about what our users need to know to use the product instead of writing every little thing we ever thought of. And topic-based authoring is the next step in that because you're now completely focused on what the user needs to know and making sure that that's delivered in a way that makes sense to the user, however that may be. So, yeah, absolutely minimalism.
Okay. From Stephen Bruce, how do you handle writers in the group who do not want to comply with the writing standard?
Generally, we fire them, and I'm not laughing. At some point, people who don't, okay, here's a really cruddy way of thinking about this. While your rear end is in your employer's chair, at some level, they are paying you to do what they want you to do. Once you have raised your objections, you've talked it through, and the group has told you, no, these are the writing conventions we are using, and we are doing it this way. You have an obligation to do it that way. And if that is too painful for you or too hard or upsets you morally or whatever your objection is, you need to go find another job, because you're getting paid to do what your employer has said to do. And yes, I have, in fact, fired people. It's not pleasant, it's not fun, but there it is. And B, you've done the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the analogies I always like to use when I was still doing consulting, before I was a captive writer and took the 20 and got in the car, is once your job stops once you know the client is making, or the group in this case, is making a conscious decision. They understand the potential ramifications, and they are making a conscious decision to do that anyway. And if that means they've decided now that they wish to write their manuals on butcher paper and crayon, your only remaining question is, what color crayon would you like me to use? Because you took the 20 and you got in the car. Guys, it's kind of a crude analogy, but it's still accurate and it's still valid. Question from Valerie McCord. Do you recommend just picking out a style guide, impartial, and stick with it, or should you try to pick up the corporate style?
Oh, gosh. Well, you probably need, in my opinion, 3, and I'm doing air quotes here, style guides. The first one is good writing guidelines, which, like I said, I've got a webinar, it's recorded, it's on SlideShare. Always good. Then there's the corporate style guide. How do we specifically talk about our products? And nobody is going to be able to, no third-party resource is going to be able to tell you how to talk about your products. Then there is the style guide that I usually use, the Microsoft style guide, because I do, and because I do. And then you go with that one. And that kind of style guide tells you, do you say on the file menu, click print, or from the file menu, click print, or however it is you're going to talk about that. And so those 3 in working together. And I like to use a third-party style guide because my head is going to explode if I have to ever sit through one more meeting with the client to go over all of our objections to on the file menu, click print. I will kill myself. So that's just, yeah. Hold on one second, B. All right, for those of you who need to go, I understand. I am willing to stick around a few more minutes and do questions. Perfectly happy with that, but I do need to stop the recording. So don't go away, but I'm going to say something weird for those of you who are attending live. So thank you very much for watching the recording. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions, etc. Follow me on Twitter, and so on.